So I mentioned the other day on my story about trigger foods and knew about their trigger foods, or if they have any. You know, not everybody has them, but I'd say roughly 7 out of 10 people have trigger foods and have intolerances that they're aware that they have them, but you don't know exactly what they are. So when it comes to identifying your trigger foods and your intolerances, you need to just listen to your body and seeing how your body responds to foods, and swelling and bloating of the stomach, cramps, bellyache, constipation, diarrhea. Some people can even be sick. It's just basically your body doesn't want to absorb that trigger food, or can't absorb that trigger food, so it's your body's way of letting you know basically that it doesn't want that particular food or particular ingredients. I go through this all the time with my clients. You know, I'm always trying to identify if they have any at all, so we can avoid them in the diet, because it's not a nice feeling whatsoever. But when it does come to trigger foods, these are definitely the most common ones. So you've got dairy, gluten, wheat, nuts, soybeans and white potato. So they are definitely your 6 most common trigger foods. So the easiest way to pinpoint these foods is to keep a food diary of a whole week. So your typical food week, what you would typically eat every day of the week. So the 7 days of the week, you will just keep a diary of the foods that you consume during that week. Just get your diary, write down your 7 days, however many meals that you have throughout the day at the top, and then any snacks as well. And then each day you will fill your diary in of what you're eating on those days. So here is a food diary of my first day, and already after my first day I'm not feeling great. So I'm going to put a tick next to the foods that I was fine with, that didn't give me any bloating, any swelling, any constipation, and then I'm going to put an X next to the foods that did make me feel like that. Tick next to the meals that you were okay with, and an X next to the meals that you weren't okay with. So that's how you start to narrow it down. So already on my first day of keeping a food diary, I know there's something in there that isn't agreeing with my body. Okay, so meal 1, that made me swell, that made me feel bloated. This is just an example, by the way. And then meal 2, same again, something in that meal 2. Meal 3, okay, so there's a tick next to that, so I was fine. Meal 4, I was fine with that. And then when I was having snacks and drinks, something there wasn't making me feel right. So there's 3 meals there that weren't okay, and there's 2 that I was absolutely fine with. So the meals that I was fine with, okay, I've got rid of them now. Okay, so I know that I'm okay with those foods. But meal 1, 2 and something in the snacks and drinks I wasn't okay with. So then what I would try and do is see if there's anything that's common about those meals and those snacks. Okay, so straight away I can see that I had butter on my toast in meal 1, and in meal 2 I had yogurt. Okay, and in my snacks and drinks I had coffee with milk, and that milk was cow's milk. Protein shake, and the protein that I used was whey protein. So already I know that all these foods have in common is dairy. That stands out straight away, is that all of those contain dairy. Now, knowing that, going forward tomorrow, I would obviously make sure that I didn't use dairy in any of my meals. Okay, so what I would do is eliminate the butter from my toast. Okay, I wouldn't use yogurt in my granola and berries. If I was going to use yogurt, I'd use a dairy-free one. With my coffee, I would change my milk. So I wouldn't use cow's milk, I'd use a dairy alternative, and then I'd see how I go with that. You'll find with some days, a lot of your meals probably will just have a tick next to them. But if there's ever a meal that you've had and you think, oh, I don't feel too great after that, or you're swelling, you're bloating, or any of the other side effects that we spoke about earlier, and then you would put an X next to that meal. Once you've done your food diary for the week, then if you continue then for the next week eating those same meals, but eliminate the food you put the X next to, so eliminate the foods that made you feel bad, and I can guarantee that you'll start to see a pattern form. So obviously, if you had cheese on one meal, if you had a whey protein, if you had yogurt, if you had butter on your toast, if you had cow's milk, you know, then all of these things, all of these triggers are connected to dairy. So that then gives you the knowledge to know that chances are your trigger food is dairy. You know, it might be that you had, in one of your meals, you had a jack potato. On another day, you had some chips, you had some roast potatoes. On your Sunday dinner, you know, they all then connect to white potato. Again, that was another popular one that I said in the beginning. Then what you would do is you'd eliminate the white potato out of your diet, and you can try changing it to sweet potato. Although it's a potato, it's a different potato family. Sweet potato and white potato are completely different. You find that although you're intolerant to white potato, you'll be fine with sweet potato. As well, you may find, you know, this is another common one that people say to me, you know, they've literally woken up in the morning, first thing they've done is go and grab a cup of coffee. As soon as I've had that coffee, it's like, bloody hell, you know, I feel horrible. I've literally drank coffee, my stomach's swollen, I need to go to the toilet, you know, I'm not feeling great. Chances are, in that coffee, you've had some sort of cow's milk. Okay, so what I would advise that you do is you try your coffee black. Okay, so you try and eliminate the milk altogether. See how you get on, see how you are the next morning. If you don't want to have your coffee black and you still want to have milk, you've got almond milk. Okay, so give that a try. Obviously, almond milk contains nuts, so as long as you're okay with nuts, then I'd try switching to almond milk, using that in your morning coffee instead, and again, see if that stops whatever the side effects are. See if that stops. Another option is oat milk. Okay, so again, it's eliminating the cow's milk, it's eliminating the dairy, it's just oats and water. So I would give that a try as well. See which one you prefer and see if that helps. A lot of people will say, oh, you know, I haven't even eaten yet and I'm already feeling rubbish. So obviously it's, well, if you haven't eaten, have you had a drink? And normally it's coffee. It might be that your trigger food is nut related. So if you switch to almond milk and you think there's still something not quite right, then obviously you want to go with oat milk, which is dairy free and nut free. We'll say, is it normal after a protein shake that my stomach swells and a bloat? It's not normal. It is quite common, and chances are your protein is whey protein. Protein powders that contain whey. Obviously whey is dairy. It's a form of milk. Again, it may just be that you have an intolerance to dairy, which is obviously in this. So this one here is a vegan protein. Okay, so the difference between these two is this one contains whey, which is dairy. This one is dairy free. Okay. It's also gluten free as well. So that is the difference between these two. So if your go-to protein is whey protein, which it generally is, if you find that after your protein shake you're having these side effects, then try eliminating the whey and going with the vegan protein. I can guarantee that you'll no longer have the bloating and the swelling if you make the switch. So get writing in your little diaries. I can guarantee within 2 weeks you will know exactly what your trigger foods are. Just make sure you're writing down all the foods that are in your meals. Put an X next to the ones that aren't agreeing with you, tick next to the ones that you felt fine from, and you'll start to see a pattern form. And as you're eliminating certain foods, you'll find that they're all connected to one thing. Okay, again, at the beginning I said about common triggers, so whether it's to do with bread, which is obviously connected to wheat, whether it's to do with potatoes, which is obviously, you know, your jack potatoes, if you're eating chips and things like that. It's connected to dairy, so obviously like, you know, your yogurts and your cow's milk. There's no reason why within a couple of weeks, maybe even a week, you will know exactly what your trigger foods are, so then going forward you can avoid them. And the great thing now, you know, we're in 2020 and there's always an alternative, always. Me personally, I'm dairy intolerant, I'm nut intolerant, I'm intolerant to bananas, I'm intolerant to white potato, all those common ones that I said to you before, except wheat and gluten. I'm intolerant to, and I've had no issues in finding alternatives to what I would have had before. It's so easy to do now. Making that switch will be the best thing that you do, because there's nothing worse than feeling bloated, and it's absolutely awful. I suffered with it for years. Obviously now I know my trigger foods and I avoid them. Obviously there's times where, you know, I will have something that contains those, sometimes without knowing, and I know about it. My body lets me know that, you know, I've had a trigger food and there's something that my body wants to reject, and I know about it. And, you know, I do suffer for a couple of days, so I do know how it feels, and, you know, it's not nice. So hopefully those tips will help, and please do let me know if you do go down the food diary route and you do find out what your trigger foods are. I'm intrigued to know. So yeah, I hope that video helps. Sending everybody lots of love and light.